of the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics with the latest economic survey that indicates that the economy is on an upward trajectory. Things are looking sanguine and optimistic, and we shall be looking at that as well. Though also, when we look at the universal health coverage and the budgetary allocation there, that has also dipped as well. We shall be looking at that when we know the president is particularly intent to make sure that universal health coverage is a prime concern for his government. Also, the pockets are not very full and well feathered, so to speak, as far as finances are concerned. It seems that has been dropping, going by the 5 years that also the report is mentioning. We shall be looking at that with the panelists this morning. I'm joined by Yusuf Hassan, who's Member of Parliament Kamukunji. Also, we have the Deputy Majority Leader of the National Assembly and Member of Kilifi constituency. This is Owen Baya. And we shall be joined by Dr. James Chikal, and also we shall be having Dan Mazu as well here in the program this morning to take us through a raft of issues. But let me just hear the voices this morning. I know I harassed Yusuf Hassan to be here this morning. He's also just suffering a jet lag. But thank you for coming through this morning. It's been a while since you took a break for Ramadan, and it's good to see you. Good morning.
Good morning, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Right.
Thanks.
Thank you. And Owen Baya, straight from the US as well. So you and the president, your plan just bypassed each other.
No, thank you very much for being here. I was in Europe, and the president went to...
You were in Europe?
I was in Europe.
I saw some pictures also from the Jimmy Carter Museum, so you'll tell us about that. That is not in Europe, is it?
No. In 2012, I was an intern at the Jimmy Carter Center. And I had a great time there. The Jimmy Carter Library is one of those iconic things in the US. Especially
2012.
2012, I was there as a student.
The library or the center?
Both the library and the center.
Oh, okay. Because the center is much more engaged with Africa.
Yes. So I was there, and I went through the Camp David Treaty process, which is one of the iconic things that Jimmy Carter did. The Camp David, that is bringing peace between the Palestinians and the Israeli. But at that time, so that's... and also, one very important thing is Jimmy Carter's belief that agriculture could transform a nation, and that if we also want to transform a nation, we must alleviate disease. So he invested a lot of money in disease, especially smallpox, and he grew certain peas. He has farms, Jimmy Carter, in Atlanta that grow peas. Peanuts. Yes, he's in peanut business, and it's a very informative thing. Then in 2013 March again, I went back, and under his tutelage, actually, I spent some time with him. I was his intern, but more importantly, he's a good lecturer. He taught us a lot of things in collaboration with Emory University then. But I was a young man then. So a lot of things could have changed. But when I saw that the president was going to deliver his remarks at the Jimmy Carter Center, I felt very nice about it, because it's a process I have lived. I understand. I also saw him at the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial at the church and the grave. And I said, yeah. I have been through this process when I was there. So I was very proud, and that the president was going to address the world on issues of democracy was also very, very telling. It's very rare for an African president to actually go to the United States and address issues of democracy without being attacked. You know, a lot of the time when you go there, the Americans think that they are the domains of democracy, good governance, and all that, you know. But I saw the president's speech, and I was like, yeah, he was making remarks on how democracy can actually help us as a world to advance an international agenda. So I think that was very, very telling, and I was very, very proud to see my president there. Yes. So it also, I became very emotional about it, you know, having spent my time there as a young person in the United States, in Atlanta, Georgia. I have good memories of Emory University, and the disease control center around there, So I read that one of the things the president is going to do is to go to the CDC.
Yes.
This CDC is one institution that Cambry must partner with if we must advance research in disease and research in medicine. Cambry. So I hope the president comes up with goodies in terms of partnership between Cambry and the CDC in the United States. It would be a good thing for the country. Yes.
Right. And I don't know if you're privy to this, Honorable Yusuf Hassan, that also we have the CDC Center here, especially within the ambit of the African Union, that is decrying the fact that many Kenyans are employed at the CDC. You read about that? That's now Kenyans should not be applying because we have almost over 300 of them working in the organization.
In Africa or in the United States?
In Africa.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, that's good news. It clearly shows that we have the expertise, the necessary expertise. Although working outside our health system is a kind of a brain drain.
Indeed.
I'm in favor of Kenyans and Africans coming back, acquiring specialized knowledge for the development of their own country and continent. But nevertheless, I think it's an opportunity for many upcoming young scientists to be able to develop their skills and knowledge in bigger institutions, and be they in the United States or Europe or in Africa.
Indeed.
But we must emphasize the fact that charity begins at home. You don't get education, all this education and input from Kenyan institutions. You invest in a person from primary to secondary school to university, and eventually you lose them out to institutions that pay more but don't give back anything to the country of origin.
But isn't that what has been also the rallying call of the president, that we should seek employment outside? Since everyone is declaring the fact that employment also has been suppressed, though we're looking at...
I don't support that.
You don't support it?
I don't support that policy. There's freedom and people can work wherever they can get employment. But it shouldn't be a policy of a government to train its people to be employed outside when you are a developing country. Otherwise, how would you develop? How would you get the expertise to be able to develop your own country? So I think that is known as a brain drain, and it's a big drain on the economy as well, because when you train a medical doctor for 6 years, the type of investment and money that you're putting is in the millions.
Indeed.
And then suddenly that medical doctor goes to serve another continent, another country. That's not a good policy.
Indeed. Of course, we shall be looking at a raft of issues as far as employment is concerned, just looking at the latest survey, the report, that is the 2023 economic survey that has just been launched by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. But let's see what is fresh off the press this morning. And we begin with the bold paper. This is the Standard. This is what you're waking up to on the front page of the Standard today. Gachagua allies to oppose Ruto tax proposal. That is what we have on the front page of the Standard this morning. Point to prove. The Mount Kenya MPs say their first rebellious act against the president will be to amend the finance bill that the government intends to use to collect taxes that will fund its operations. You have the story on page 2 of the Standard today. The tax on bread proposal is a decoy, and they will discard it after hue and cry. But it is aimed at diverting attention. This is what Gadoni Wamushomba was saying. You can follow the story inside the Standard. Economic looks all rosy except money in Mwananchi pockets. That is where the tripping wire is. Economic Survey 2024 released yesterday shows economy grew by 5.6% in 2023 compared to 4.9% in 2022, with agriculture, forestry and fishing being the major contributors to the gross domestic product. 4, 5, 6 and 7. There is a special report where it is well laid out for you today. 6.5% agriculture, forestry and fishing, what contributed to the 2023 GDP growth in the key sectors as highlighted here. 2% from manufacturing, construction, 3%, 6.2% transport and storage, 2.9% electricity supply, 9.3% information and communication. We shall give you the gritty details in our news bulletin this morning, but also we can see the eye-popping percentage there from information and communication, having also the largest contribution to the GDP as far as the result of the survey is concerned. This is a standard. Let's see what we have also on top here. US visit, the joy and comfort of flying Hustler jet. And also we'll give you the gritty details of this particular hired jet costing 200 million shillings to, of course, ferry our president around the US. And we'll give you also how that is broken down. South Africa, cool burns Azuma from next election. Well, I've never seen this word before, but maybe I need to be informed. You know, the diplomat, you can tell us this core bands. What is that? All right, that we can follow this on the flag, just on the front page of a standard.
Page which?
The front page of a standard. Yes, just the cover there. Yes, for the international relations.
There's a
there.
spelling there.
Right.
Some misspelling.
Court.
There's a court ban. Yeah, from the next elections. Yeah, this is a court ban. I think, yeah, just a mix-up. Something happened there.
Editors.
Yes, okay, 10 games that decided EPL title race. That is 46. You can follow the story. What next for Iranians after Rice's death? That's a probing question. And Pakistani scribe murder, puzzle of Americans, and also inside. You have the financial magazine standard, that's the financial standard that comes in for you. At inside, US plan to cut China's clout in Kenya. You can follow this story inside the standard today. All right, this is the standard. Where to get the best paying jobs. This is what the headlining cover, or the headlining story on the front page of the Daily Nation. Accommodation and food service, transport and financial sectors top employers. Performance. Multilateral bodies and non-governmental organizations such as World Bank and United Nations offer the best paying jobs, with dominant sectors like real estate and agriculture among the least rewarding according to the latest KNBS 2024 economic survey. The economy also registered the second fastest growth rate in 5 years, boosted by improved agricultural activity and tourism boom, even as the country registered an increase in crimes pushed by a spike in thefts. As Kenyans sought ways of surviving the hard times. You have a story on page 6, 7, and 8 of the Daily Nation this morning. Gachagua's UDA allies accused of blackmail. Allies of President Ruto have warned a section of Mount Kenya leaders in government against what they termed as quote-unquote blackmail, targeting the head of state. The leaders said there is need for those in government to speak in one voice rather than engage in internal fights. National Assembly Majority Whip Sylvanus Osoro said the Mount Kenya region controls nearly half of the Kenya Kwanza administration and as such has no justification for squabbling. And Ruto's US state visit, you can see a standalone picture here. President William Ruto and First Lady Rachel Ruto posed with members of a band upon his arrival at the Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport in the US city of Atlanta yesterday. The president is on a 4-day state visit to the US. And on the sidebar, war crimes, ICC seeks arrest of Netanyahu, 3 Hamas leaders. International Criminal Court prosecutor Karim Khan has requested arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, his defense chief, and 3 Hamas leaders of alleged war crimes. You can follow the story on page 23 of the Daily Nation today. Dramatic Kenyan visit by Iranian leader Raisi that rattled Washington. Iran President Ibrahim Raisi, who was killed in a helicopter crash on Sunday, had a highly publicized visit to Kenya last year that was clouded in diplomatic mishap and condemnation by US officials. And you can follow the story on page 2 and 3 of the Daily Nation this morning. Let's see what the People Daily is holding for us. State of economy. National wealth grew by 5.9% in 2023, with informal sector yielding 85% of jobs, but experts warn figures may have since changed. probably for the worse, right? This is, of course, misgivings from the experts as well regarding this particular report. National wealth grew by 5.9% in 2023, with informal sector yielding 85% of the jobs, but experts warn figures may have since changed, probably for worse. You have a story on page 4 and 5 of the People Daily this morning. And public finance, national government revenues, you have illustrations here of how that has been broken down for you, just to give you some teasers. Revenue is expected to grow by 30.2% to 3 trillion shillings, counting government revenue and expenditure. 2023-2024 revenue is expected to increase by 19% to 512 billion shillings. Expenditure is expected to increase by 35.4% to 562.3 billion shillings. National government expenditure 2023-2024 is expected to increase by 26.6% to 4 trillion shillings. National government debt, this rose by 19.3% to 9.6 trillion shillings by end of June. Health and vital statistics, health expenditures, national government expenditure on health services is expected to almost double from 88.1 billion shillings in 2023 to 161.8 billion shillings in 2023-2024. And you can read the rest of the details there inside the People Daily. ICC seeks arrest warrant against Israeli Premier Netanyahu is another story tucked away on page 19 of the People Daily this morning. Blowers Treasury slashes health budget by 219 billion shillings. And Dr. James Nyikal will tell us what is a blowback of this slash that is happening, especially as we said before, the government is particularly intent on shaking into place the universal health coverage. Will this also scupper the whole process? I've seen also we're just coming from the settlement of the doctor strike and the government, where they came up with a resolution. We hope that is not also a band-aid solution, that will carry through and will not see another state of play of what we had before carrying over to next year. And still, as we continue to talk about strikes, also the JSS teachers are on strike. The dog life of a JSS teacher is tucked away on page 3 of the People Daily this morning. Let's see what Taifa Leo is holding for us. Wandani wa rais ndani ya muungano wa tawala wawafokea wenzao kwa mlima Kenya kwa kutoa vitisho. Vuta ni kuvute Kenya kwanza. That is a splash, and you can see some of the faces that actually causing some of this disquiet and tensions within Kenya Kwanza. We have Jen Kihara, we have Governor Mutahi Kahiga, we have also Silvana Sosoro and Senator Ali Roba. You can follow the story on page 2 of the Taifa Leo this morning. Mvua kubwa kunyesha Kenya kesho. You're warned. Idara ya utabiri wa hali ya hewa ya wahimiza wananchi kukaa ange. And that story continues on page 2 of Taifa Leo this morning. So you were warned today. That will be happening tomorrow. Kifo cha rais chagutusha wengi. Urusi, China, India na kundi la Hamas miongoni mwa nchi zilizotuma risala za rambirambi. And you have the story on page 2 and 8 of Taifa Leo this morning. Now, real wages shrunk for the 4th consecutive year. This is what the Business Daily is holding. Real wages shrink for the 4th consecutive year. Inflation wipes out 2.8% pay rise in 2023. Real wages slumped to negative 4.1% adjusted for inflation. You have a story continuing on page 2 of the Business Daily today. Equity seeks fraud busters to counter loss of client deposits. That is another story that you want to follow on page 2 of, actually page 6 of the Business Daily. Agriculture travel power. GDP growth to 5.6%. Agriculture, travel, power GDP growth to 5.6%. Kenya's economy in 2023 grew at second fastest rate in 5 years on the back of a rebound in agriculture or agricultural output and tourism recovery. You have a story on page 3 of the Business Daily. Auditor General calls out shoddy work on Mombasa Road. The Auditor General has raised the alarm over the poor quality of work done by a contractor on the Nyeri section of the 30 billion shillings Mombasa Road project and 1 billion shillings fraud case against ex-Britain staff withdrawn. You can follow the story on page 6. Director of Public Prosecution has withdrawn a 1 billion shillings theft charge or charges against former senior employee of financial services firm Britain, among them Edwin Dande. And KQ faces surge in refunds on flights delay and cancellations. National carrier Kenya Airways is expected to face a surge in refund claims as a consequence of widespread delays and flight cancellations. You have a story on page 14 of the Business Daily this morning. In Uganda, Makerere tax 1,500 on government sponsorship. Makerere University has admitted 1,000, while Makerere University Business School has absorbed 450 of the about 4,000 available slots on government's scholarship schemes or scheme for students who sat their A level last year. This story on page 2 and 3. And inside 6 minutes, Bobby Wine Wangadia attends meeting. All that tucked on page 4 of the publication today. UPDF to recruit 9,600 soldiers countrywide. And while joining Iran in mourning Raisi after helicopter crash. All that inside the Daily Monitor. And you have also your Rainbow magazine, Fun at the Baby, and the Kids Expo also. They'll give you the details of that. The Citizen in Tanzania. $420 million gas to liquids fuel facility in the pipeline. Representatives of a Canadian company have visited Tanzania for preliminary talks on plans to build $420 million plant that will produce diesel and jet fuel from natural gas. And this story is on page 2 of The Citizen today. Advancement in focus as defense budget hits 3.3 trillion shillings. The sum that is set aside for the Defense and National Service Ministry's recurrent expenditure in 2024-2025. Iran mourns president's death in copter crash. That story on page 3 of The Citizen today. And how invasive weeds threaten pastoral livelihoods in Tanzania. All that on page 4 of The Citizen. In Rwanda, how can Africa claim its place on global stage? That is the abiding question. Africa has all it takes to position itself on global stage. This story continues on page 3 of the New Times. Today, I should say. And experts also discuss advancing health research. This, you can see panel discussion there. Delegates follow a panel discussion during a health research and policy conference in Kigali on Monday, held under the theme Advancing Research for a Healthy Rwanda 2024. The two-day meeting is discussing ways to forge a united front to shape the future of health in Rwanda. Also, delays in Rubavu port opening explained, and Rwandan scientist leads MIT team in creating high-tech toxic gas detectors. You can follow the story on page 4 of the New Times. The East African this week is all about China backing Kenya, Uganda, SGR Financial. China backers Uganda's SGR Financial. CS Kipchumba Murkomen says they have secured commitment from the Exim Bank. The partners want more loans to take the line to DRC. And this story continues on page 5 of the East African this week. USDRC to go slow on Israeli mining mogul. Treasury Department and Kinshasa Mal Limited's easing of sanctions on Dan Gatla to facilitate his Congo exit. Museveni Ruto seek review of Somalia force exit. That is on page 8 and 9 of the latest publication. And battle scars, what the Ukraine war has taught us about PTSD. That is what the Newsweek is holding, the latest publication. And also, is America dictator-proof? That is what is the question on the front page of The Economist. You can follow the story. And also, inside the American startup boom, China, Russia, and the gray zone, and the PJP's power vacuum, economists and God, all that inside the publication. Time magazine, if he wins, that is what is on the front page of a Time magazine, the latest publication. And that is all about Donald Trump. If he wins, that is a story by Eric Kotelesa. And also the China Daily. She sends condolences over Raisi's death. Iran's president, FM among those killed in crash. You can follow the story inside the publication today. China among nations with lowest crime rate. That is what we have as a report given there. That is the annual report on rule of law in China. Also, sharing of tea, a symbol of exchanges between civilization. That is a story you want to follow inside China Daily this morning. Looking at the editorial cartoons, all right, the latest we know who took up that particular cup. I wonder who Man City's supporters here on this desk went by. Huh?
I don't support Man City.
You don't support Man City?
They have no supporters.
Dan Mazo.
So you all support losers.
Yeah, I support the best team in the world.
Huh?
I support Manchester United. It's the best team. We allow small teams to win.
So I'm sitting with a panel of losers here.
That Manzo supports Manchester United.
You support football?
When I'm watching, I don't take sides.
That is very abstract. No, in football you have to support a team. You can't just support football. Yeah. Or you're supporting the football itself.
I think that's a generational
not a team.
It's a generational thing.
It's a generational thing, yeah.
Yes.
You know, there was a period when one used to get very excited and fight over.
Yeah. But now, yeah.
Now you just look
you
at
mature and move on.
And move on.
which team is playing nicely. Look at the moves on the field, and you enjoy the moves, whoever is doing it.
Right, that's how it was here, and this is what Gamza Spark captured today. And also, coming to America diary. 1, learn how to use taxes. This is what we have on the diary there, as Stano has put it. 1, learn how to use taxes. 2, borrow more loans. Also 2023, that is 2027 elections, bring more Kenyans to USA. This is what we were talking about. All right, improve tourism, partner in Haiti mission, help Baba capture the AU job, build expressway from Nairobi to Washington. Right, that is coming to America diary according to Stano, as highlighted in today's editorial cartoon in the People Daily. All right, we want to begin on a positive note, where Kenya's economy grew, albeit marginally, from 4.9% in 2023 to 5.6% in 2024. The 2024 Economic Survey report by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics also indicates the strength of the economy leans heavily on agriculture as the backbone. And also, we have Nicole Njuguna starting us off to give us more details.
At a time the global economy marked a slowed growth of 3.1% in 2023 compared to 3.5% the previous year, Kenya's economy reversed the curve, growing by 4.6%.
The GDP growth rate is 5.6% in 2023 from a revised figure of growth of 4.9 in 2022.
Agriculture, forestry and fishing led the economic contribution at 19.8%, followed by financial and insurance services, real estate and transport and storage.
The financial and insurance activities grew by 16.6%. Then we have the real estate, which grew by 13.3%, and we have transportation and storage that grew by 10.6%.
A severe drought in 2022, followed by El Nino, was attributed to the redirection of resources to save lives.
We started with a drought, a very severe drought in 2022. We haven't seen that for the last 40 years. And so fiscal resources, including support from development partners, was shifted to save lives.
Protecting the economic recovery remains important, with research pointing to strong growth, reducing poverty significantly and enhancing sustainable growth.
We need strong growth. And that economic recovery, we have to protect it, because one of the major, perhaps frontier ideas that we have developed in the last 5 years, especially in research, is to show that strong growth will actually reduce poverty significantly. Then it means that we have to look for ways and means of trying to ignite strong growth and to sustain that growth. And that is where economic recovery will become very, very strong, and it will be supporting us all through.
In spite of the growth in GDP, many Kenyans are decrying the high cost of living exacerbated by heavy taxation.
Now, still on the economy, the contents of the Finance Bill 2024 continue to elicit mixed reactions as leaders across the political divide call for sufficient public participation to check on the burden. There has been sharp criticism of the bill as basic commodities like bread have been earmarked for taxation. This, as Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi says he has been vindicated over his earlier advisory that the economy would stabilize in the first years of the Kenya Kwanza administration. Alo Chanda has more.
The announcement by the National Treasury that it had removed bread from the tax exemption commodities list, proposing a 16% value-added tax that will see its price increase by 10 shillings, has unsettled Kenyans and the political class. With the Finance Bill 2024 nigh, opinion is divided on whether to tax the basic commodity or not.
Tukiangalia tax ikiongezwa kwa mkate. Mkate inakuliwa na watu wetu wale wa chini. Wengine hata mtu unaenda hata kwa watoto wetu wa shule wanakula hiyo mikate. Na saa hiyo naweka tax. Hiyo ni kumaanisha yule mtu anataka kufinya ni yule wa pale chini kabisa.
Hakuna mkate itaongezwa bei. Wale wa uongo wakikuja ulizeni hao mnataka pesa kwa vikundi, sio kuja kudanganya bei ya mkate inapanda. Si namna hivyo?
Unajua mkate kusemekana ikuwe tax exempted ni kusema si nyinyi mnakatwa ushuru mkinunua mafuta mkipanda gari, ni kusema hiyo pesa yenye mnakatwa iende ilipie mwingine mkate ile asilipe bei ile ambaye anaweza. Na hiyo ndio ukweli wa mambo, tusidanganyane. Any tax exemption means that there are Kenyans who are benefiting at the expense of the majority who don't have a voice to say.
The bill, in aiming at expanding the tax base, seeks to bring more economic activities into the net and remove certain tax exemptions. This, however, according to the opposition, is punitive and will impose undue burden on taxpayers. Motor vehicle owners have frowned at the bill too, as it proposes a 2.5% tax, which they say will increase the burden on them. Leaders want sufficient public participation, lest Kenyans feel left out.
Katika masuala ya ushuru, ni lazima tuzunguke katika taifa hili jinsi katiba ya Kenya inavyopendekeza na kufanya ile kitu tunaita public participation. Nyinyi ndio mtasema kama mnataka au hamtaki.
Wale wabunge ambao walikuwa wanapinga, walikuwa wanaongea kwa matanga kuhusu ile finance bill ambayo ilikuwa imepita. Their time is now. Ile kizungu walikuwa wanaongea, sasa wafike mbele ya kamati ya bunge watengeneze ile bajeti ambayo inakuja, because bunge ya kitaifa ndio iko na jukumu kubwa ya kutengeneza budget ya Kenya.
The Kenya Kwanza administration rode to power with the promise to better the business environment, especially for the small and medium-sized enterprises, but blamed its misses on what they termed as dried coffers when they took office. Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi reiterating that he is vindicated over his statement that it will take 3 years to revive the economy.
Kupindua uchumi wa Kenya itabidi tuvumilie. Na nilisema miaka mitatu zitakuwa migumu. It is coming to pass. Sitaki kuambia watu tulipata madeni ya aina gani. Nitakuwa nikiharibu tu hesabu hapa.
The National Assembly Finance Committee is expected to conduct public engagements and thereafter present a report to the House. Alan Ochanda, KTN News.
And the Ministry of Health proposed budget allocation has been significantly reduced by 209.4 billion shillings. The ministry had requested 319.4 billion shillings, but that has been capped by the National Health Committee at 121.9 billion shillings, and further by the National Treasury at 100 billion shillings. It is feared that the deviation in allocation will paralyze the implementation of the universal health coverage. Husna Mohammed puts the figures into context.
The Health Committee, chaired by Endebess MP Robert Bukose, met to discuss the presented 2024-25 financial year estimates by the Ministry of Health.
You need to come up with a clear list that this is the contractor who was providing services, this is how much we owe this contractor. This other contractor, this was providing services, we owe this much. This one provided up to this end, this is the only amount we have.
The estimated budget for the Ministry of Health being scrutinized by several parties to gauge its practicality.
So why would we prioritize payment of a court case over the payment for pensions for health workers who have served Kenyans and they are exiting the service they require to be paid?
While some of the medics are on strike, among them UHC staff, decrying their salaries arrears, the estimated budget saw particularly a reduction of 700 million shillings for the UHC workers.
How come you have money for construction of new hospitals as such, and you are considering reduction that are touching on employees?
It beats logic, Honorable Chair, that we are able, or that the ministry is able to sacrifice emoluments, or rather the pension that's supposed to be paid for people already served, whereas they also get an opportunity to get some other money for purposes of operations in the near future. Honorable Chair, you see, any prudent person would pay attention to a debt as opposed to new expenditure.
In a bid to defend the figures they presented, the ministry showcased its reasons for allocating additional 100 million Kenya shillings for the Shakahola massacre saga.
Roughly, we might have used about 30 million so far, and I'm not very sure. I have to get the correct figure. And this mainly go to the DSA because we have several officers there who include the pathologists. We have a total of 7 pathologists on the ground. We have morticians and drivers.
As the Shakahola massacre saw an increment, the maternal and family planning side took a hit. The main responsibility lies with the National Assembly Health Committee and the Treasury to come up with a suitable budget for the health sector. Husna Mohammed, KTN News, Nairobi.
Two different things, and at the same.
And the Mount Kenya region is not resting easy. Barely 3 years into the Kenya Kwanza regime, politicians from the region are regrouping. The just concluded Limuru 3 meeting has raised the political heat within the ruling coalition, whose members allege plans to drive a wedge between President William Ruto and his Mount Kenya's political base. Jeff Kirui has more.
Barely 3 years into President William Ruto's presidency, the Mount Kenya region is rumbling. The Limuru 3 meeting held on Friday last week has ruffled feathers within the ruling coalition as a section of leaders allege plans to drive a wedge between President William Ruto and the region that propelled him to power with more than 3.5 million votes.
The second highest position, the Deputy President of the Republic, anatoka Mount Kenya. Tuambiane ukweli, the majority leader of the National Assembly, anatoka Mount Kenya. The chair of Finance Committee in Parliament, anatoka Mount Kenya. The chair of Budget in Parliament, anatoka Mount Kenya. The Treasury CS, anatoka Mount Kenya. The Land CS, anatoka Mount Kenya. Ai, my friend, ni nini ingine mnataka bwana? Watu wengine wako. You cannot be blackmailing the president every time.
During the Limuru 3 meeting, the rallying call was for unity of the region as political stakeholders called on Deputy President Gachagua to reach out to retired President Uhuru Kenyatta to consolidate the support of the region.
Magashaka gotweka running mate ya mundu ina 1.9 million. Never again. How can you have 9 million votes? Mudhure mundu wina 1.9 million. Kumare uthi ni gotreto okoragia running mate watufuate.
This coming at a time talks are rife over a rift between President William Ruto and his deputy Gachagua. Allies of Gachagua from the mountain have alleged schemes to frustrate the DP.
And he is not a deputy president by default. Ni mpango wetu na yeye ndiye ameshikilia mlima. So, ningetaka nitangaza nikiwa hapa kwa kanisa. Madharau yoyote kwa Rigathi Gachagua ni madharau ya mlima. Kweli uongo?
Kule kwingine kumenyamaza dunia ya Kenya. Kwani kuna interest gani hapa mlima? Tuko mwaka 1.5. Alafu tunaona dalili ya maneno.
Hakuna wakati rais wa Kenya ametuma sisi wabunge ya Rift Valley ya Wakalenjin
twende tufuruge siasa ya Central Kenya. No time.
We will not support any ethnic mobilization in Kenya.
This even as State House Nairobi came out to dismiss any fallout.
About the Deputy President and the President, to my knowledge, there is no issue, Chef.
In March this year, President Ruto alluded that moving forward, the UDA party will alternate the gender in elective positions requiring running mates.
If a man is a candidate for president in our party, the woman must be the runner.
A move that could technically knock out Gachagua in the 2027 race. Jeff Kirui, KTN News.
Right, President William Ruto is in the United States for a 4-day official visit. The president this time round decided to fly a business jet that KTN News has since established is a Boeing business jet. This aircraft service is run by a United Arab Emirates company, Royal Jet Group, a premium private aviation company based in Abu Dhabi. It is a 7-year-old Boeing 737, one of the 8 owned by the company founded in 2003. Emmanuel Toh has the details of this aircraft that will cost the taxpayer an upward of 200 million shillings just to take and bring back the president and his team.
As high-ranking state officials saw him off at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport Sunday night, ready for the historic trip to the United States of America, a bird never before publicly seen was spotted on the airside, all white with 2 strips running across the fuselage. This was his choice for transporting this journey. When the pictures and videos hit the public space, a debate was ignited. The head of state's usual mode of transport out of the country is a presidential jet, a 30-year-old Fokker 70 extended range Christian Harambe 1 with a carrying capacity of 26 passengers, but these aircraft can only fly 5 hours non-stop. He opted for a charter, Boeing 737-700 business jet from the Abu Dhabi-based Royal Jet Group, a premium private aviation company. A quotation requested and sent to the Standard Group from the operator puts the cost of hiring a similar state-of-the-art aircraft at a total cost of $748,600, which translates to about 98 million shillings one way for a 34-seater plane. A return journey will cost another 98 million shillings. Details show the plane could cost more than 2 million shillings per hour, and these will vary depending on routing, scheduling, number of passengers, year of manufacture, among other details. Then there is the takeoff tax, landing tax, and parking. In addition to the amount spent getting the aircraft from Abu Dhabi to Nairobi and back to the United Arab Emirates, a near 5-hour journey on both legs could each cost anywhere between 8 million shillings and 10 million shillings. On the first leg, the jet left Abu Dhabi at 9:03 a.m. on Saturday, landing at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport almost 4 hours later. It spent a day on the ground ahead of Ruto's trip. He will depart at 9:48 p.m. Sunday and landed at Santiago de Compostela in Spain yesterday at 5:30 a.m. local time. 8 hours and 42 minutes later, ostensibly to refuel. This aircraft, a Boeing 737-700, has a flying range of 10 hours non-stop. The plane then left Spain for Atlanta, Georgia, a journey of 8 hours and 42 minutes before landing at the Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport. Fitted with 10 auxiliary tanks, the ultra-modern aircraft went into commercial use about 9 years ago. This particular one, used by President Ruto and his team, is configured for day travel at 34 seats, 8 of them VIP, 8 business and 18 standard, and 5 crew members. It also has an executive bedroom. This extravagant travel comes as the government promised to implement austerity measures to reduce the weight on the taxpayer. The government is also planning to acquire a new state-of-the-art jet which will replace the KAF 308, which was bought in 1995 by retired President the late Daniel Arap Moi.
Presidential jet, you remember, was purchased in the early 80s or late 80s by former President Daniel Arap Moi. And probably this offers that opportunity now to reconsider all this equipment, be it aircraft and other military equipment, Honorable Speaker, towards modernizing them.
It is not the first time President William Ruto is showing his taste for expensive things. In 2013, he was under fire for hiring a private jet for a 5-day shuttle diplomacy over the International Criminal Court in 2013. A business trip for the team, assuming all the 34 seats were occupied, would have cost the government about 40 million shillings on commercial jet return, 160 million shillings less. Emmanuel Toh, KT News, Nairobi.
And upon his arrival in the United States, President William Ruto kicked off his tour with a meeting at the Carter Center, where he is to speak on democratic values and anti-corruption efforts. Ruto's remarks are expected to underscore the importance of democracies working collaboratively to tackle global challenges. KTN's business editor, Peter Wakaba, is in Atlanta, Georgia, covering the president's visit. Here's more.
It's early Monday morning here in Atlanta, in the U.S. state of Georgia, and we are standing by to receive President William Ruto when he starts his 4-day state visit here to the United States. In Atlanta, besides meeting Kenyans living and working here and attending an exhibition of several businesses that are selling into the Kenyan market, he's expected to perform the official launch of the Vivo Activewear brand entry into the American market. After that, he's expected, of course, to travel to the Martin Luther King Mausoleum and Museum to take a look around and see what exactly has been going on there in terms of trying to sensitize the public against gun-violence and the works of Martin Luther King Jr. Later on, he's expected to visit the President Carter Memorial Library and Museum. And after that, then jet off to Washington, D.C., where he's expected to have several meetings with President Joe Biden, and of course discuss important bilateral and trade, political and trade matters between America and Kenya. We, of course, will be standing by to give you updates regularly as and when we do get the chance during the entire trip. From Atlanta here in Georgia, my name is Peter Wakaba, your eyes and ears on the ground.
Indeed, and we should be putting tails, of course, with Peter Wakaba there in the United States to just get the full itinerary of the president and what deliberations will have been thrashed out on those particular meetings as well. We want to take a short break right now. When we circle back, of course, we buckle down with our panelists to discuss a raft of issues, of course, looking at the president tour and what